Hello, everybody. How are you? Today, we have Danny Johnson with us on Digital of Business and Business of Digital. We are going to talk about 7 steps to become a LinkedIn All Star. Danny has 16 successful years in sales, marketing management, recruitment, and customer service. She is an accidental marketer. Why I am saying so is we will hear it from Danny herself. Hi, Danny. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, can you explain your journey of becoming an marketer from where you are? So, you were into schools, you were into sales, you were into recruitment. How did the whole marketing thing come up?
Yeah, so like you said, I come from a background of recruitment, specifically within education. And one of my roles as a salesperson was to write up CVs and profiles on teachers and then send them out on email across to schools. And it was identified that I was quite good at that, and results were coming back in on it. The company got in a coaching company, and I went off on holiday for 3 weeks to Australia, sunning myself, enjoying myself, come back to be told that I am now heading up a marketing department and will be taking on the role of marketing manager and working with 2 apprentices. So yeah, it was definitely fell into it, and enrolled myself very quickly on a CIM course so I could upskill myself. But yeah, I'm glad I did because I really enjoy it. Yeah, and I then continued to do that for a couple of years, had my children, and then decided on a career change and jumped into the world of digital marketing in agency. So, and that's where I am now with Expand.
Great. So, did LinkedIn help you get that job? Just
I,
asking the question.
I suppose in a way,
Yeah.
probably, yeah, because LinkedIn was I was trained. Fortunately, I was trained by LinkedIn. My
Yeah.
previous business invested in the
The training.
package. Yeah, so I suppose that my knowledge of LinkedIn has really helped within my current role now. So, but yeah, I think it does help.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for how many years now, Jenny, are you using LinkedIn as a tool? So, there are a lot of things which have changed in the tool over the course of last 2 3 years.
Oh
So,
yeah.
if you can take us through the journey, how you started, what you were doing on that, and then what is it now that you are doing on it?
Yeah. Well, really, we started using it back when it was originally invented as a recruitment tool. So we used it not so much in terms of networking, but
Yeah.
more for recruiting of teachers. So we had the recruiter tools and the
Okay.
licenses back then. So it was pretty much a process of reaching out and asking, presenting potential possibilities, job opportunities to teachers that were on there.
Okay.
Wasn't so much that we used it for sales initially, but that then grew as we developed our experience of working with it. So it was very much about that. And there are areas of that side that I still use now when working with my clients. But we do now in this role, I now kind of coach people on how to use it as an individual as well, in terms of thought leadership and building your network. So there's a lot more detail to it now as well. And like you say, it has grown, and there's so many more different things and opportunities and functionalities that it does that it didn't do back then.
Yeah. So when we see LinkedIn, and as Facebook came up, it was all about connecting with your friends.
Hmm.
LinkedIn came up. LinkedIn was all about connecting with your peers or maybe somebody in the ecosystem professionally in that way. LinkedIn was a professional network. Do you see that thing has changed over a course of time, or it's still a network where you connect with people professionally?
I think there's still an element of that you do connect with people professionally.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that people fall down on is that they see the connections as a bit of a numbers game.
Yeah.
And and we do ultimately, LinkedIn put the magic 500 number up there, and people are hooked on this 500 because it then turns into a plus after that. So
Yeah.
it's like a target to get to this 500, and people do it, and they don't realize that by just clicking yes and connecting with everyone, and it affects what they see, it affects the content that LinkedIn shows them, it affects who sees them. There's so many things that the algorithm learns from who we're connected with, and I think people don't realize that. So there is an element of still connecting within, the people who you meet with on a day-to-day basis, and almost using it as a kind of a business card, I suppose. you
Yes.
know Back in the day when we were allowed to go to networking events, you would generally kind of see people connecting on LinkedIn. Oh, I'll connect with you on there. And that happened a lot within education, but there is a definite kind of method behind who you connect with and why. So
Yeah. So when we see connections, connections are one way of connecting with. So there are different purposes of doing connection. Like you initially also said, there is a thought leadership that you are right now working on with your clients, that they can become thought leaders in their domain. That is one way. Other is how you recruiters are using it, or people in HR. You have been from the recruitment background, so you know the best how to extract things from LinkedIn and do those things. Then there is a sales part which comes into LinkedIn. uh, for small businesses and freelancers, how should one approach LinkedIn in their industry or in their career line? What should be that two things, three things which they should keep in mind before they jump on uh, a domain like LinkedIn or on a platform like LinkedIn? What should be the things that they should keep in mind?
I suppose there's it's difficult. There's quite a lot, but I mean, one of the biggest things that we always say, and it's so important, is value. Whenever I'm working with anyone and they ask me what content they should be sharing, or any kind of, well, what should I do on it, how should I engage with people on it, and I always say, just think about the value. One thing about LinkedIn that's different to every other platform is that people have intent when they go there. So all the other platforms are generally somewhere we go to waste time. We'll scroll and we'll just look, and a lot of the time, if you ask somebody what they'd engage with whilst they were on that platform, they probably couldn't even remember what they've liked, what they've ticked. LinkedIn's different because you go there with an intent to learn something, to find something, to connect with someone particularly, to build your credibility. So I think remembering that and providing someone with that value for whatever their intent might be, that's one of the biggest things that you can do. And it relates back to your audience personas. If you've built that person that your business is targeting, then you should know what their intent on LinkedIn would be, and then create the content to tick that box. That's the biggest thing that I would suggest to anyone. And also making sure that their profile is complete. So LinkedIn is really good at showing you how to work through. In the little right hand side, it'll tell you what's not complete on your profile, and making sure that that is all complete will help the algorithm to understand that you're actually wanting to use the platform. It's not a case of just ticking some boxes. It's actually, right, I've taken time to fill all these sections out, and LinkedIn likes that, and it'll reward you for that by showcasing your profile in more areas. So it makes sense to build your recommendations, to gain endorsements, to fill out all of those career history bits, and make sure keywords are everywhere. So they're probably the biggest two kind of things I'd say to do, and they are quite big. So Probably limit it to that for starters.
Very true. Completing the profile is, I think, the biggest thing which comes. Writing your introduction to completing image, cover photo, your experience, and those kind of things. How valuable are those? If you can tell people how the algorithm works, if uh, your profile is complete, and why should that be complete?
Because if you think about, the old saying, people buy from people, it's true on this platform as well. So every time you comment on someone else's posts or you interact with a group, for example, your profile is being kind of showcased there. So the biggest part is your headline, that little status part. A lot of people don't change that. They just leave it as their name and title, and LinkedIn just pulls it as your most recent title. So if you've not even updated that, then you're potentially advertising yourself as something you're not as well. So it's really important to kind of to use that space. And it is a limited space, but getting in there your keywords, or maybe successes, or an award, if you've recently been voted top whatever, that kind of thing is potentially what's going to make people click. And profile pictures, like, could you imagine if you have a photograph where you're maybe holding a pint of beer or something, and then you comment on a post in a group full of your potential audience, and there's you with a pint of beer? Like, first impressions do count. So, making sure that your profile picture is professional is important, because that could be what stops somebody clicking on you to look at your detail even more. So they are really important, because obviously they're the ones that are out there publicly as well.
So, when it comes to the description, which I suggest people a lot of times, it is the metadata in a way, which comes in websites. Whenever you search something on Google, and the things which are written just below your name of the website or the URL is what happens with your profiles when somebody is searching your thing on LinkedIn. And if
Yeah,
your metadata is not correct in a way, people you might up landing on less search results, which you should as an individual, and
yeah,
that always pushes you back in the algorithm thing. And if your profile is complete, you have your things ready, it will just push you more.
yeah.
LinkedIn is a platform where if you are active, like all other platforms, if you're more active, LinkedIn will push you more. If you're less active, LinkedIn won't push you in that way.
It rewards you for activity and for
Yes.
being on the platform. And that's the good thing about LinkedIn in that sense, is that it does give back.
Yes, yes. So, uh, one part is about our landing pages, our profiles, how they look, and what are the things which we should do there. When it comes to content, you suggested us to invest in sharing valuable things. In initial part, we discussed those.
Mhm.
But how should somebody pursue the kind of content for their own industry? So there are freelancers, there are agencies who don't have a lot of time in doing those things.
Yeah.
How should the owners of people who are trying to make their own image, what should be their first steps of starting that journey of creating content on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Couple of things. First one, hashtags. Hashtags are amazing, and they are a great source of content. They're also great for things like social listening. You can literally follow a hashtag for your keyword and just keep an eye on what people are talking about under that hashtag. LinkedIn allows you to do that in the search functionality in the search bar. I love LinkedIn for search. It's just so detailed, and you can narrow it down, you can open it up, you can just tweak it so well, which is why it was great for recruitment back then, because you could select all these different elements to find people. But hashtags, if, for example, you I work with a client who is like a mediator, So we did some work on him following hashtag mediation, hashtag, mediator needed, things like that. So he could keep an eye on that content and then add value to any conversations there, share the content if it was relevant. So that's the first most biggest thing that I would say to do. And that works on any platform as well, but LinkedIn is great for that one. The other thing is that LinkedIn gives the suggested news as well. So you keep an eye in there because they're articles that LinkedIn has flagged as being spoken about. So in a way, you kind of, because you're staying on LinkedIn as well, that'll help with the algorithm because you're not driving traffic away from LinkedIn, which it currently doesn't penalize as much as it used to now for that. But still, if you can keep people on the platform, then it's going to be better. There might not always be something relevant in there, but it's worthwhile just keeping an eye on it. It allows you also to follow all the different trends and things as well. But there's also a tool called Feedly, which we use quite regularly. And we love that because you can select your topics and it gives you articles and things. So every day it's worth just spending a quick 10 minutes having a look on there if there's anything relevant.
Yes. I think it helps people. So like people who are on Twitter mostly use TweetDeck in a lot of ways, where you can categorize things by hashtag. You can see what is the trending topic and those kind of things. Same ways it helps for people of LinkedIn also.
Yeah.
It streamlines a lot of things for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, a lot of people are worried about creating their own content, but if you start with things like that, with the curated kind of content,
Yes.
and just until you feel a bit more confident to actually put your own thing out there, there's nothing wrong with kind of, using other people's content, but just being mindful of, of saying thank you if you need to. I always, if I share anybody's content, if I've seen it on a hashtag, I'll always add a comment first and say, thanks, I'm going to nick this, or, great content. Do you mind if I share? And it's fine. But in terms of like, if you want to create your own content, one of the easiest things to do is use your notes on your phone.
Yes.
So if you have a conversation during the day and it's become a real conversation, it's thought-provoking, you've had a good chat about it with someone, then that's great content for LinkedIn the next day. So what I tend to do is on a night before I go to bed, I'll kind of like just write anything that I've come across and thought, this is good, this would be good content, and I just have reams of notes in my phone. But then when I come to write the content on LinkedIn, I'm like, right, yes, I remember that. So yeah, it's a lot easier than people think. It is time, but all social media is time.
Yes. Content creation is one of the toughest things which comes across. And then with content creation, consistency of those content creation part is the toughest one. So it's the
Yes,
peak of the iceberg. Which so we are just seeing the peak of the iceberg. Whenever we see content creation is hard, there's a lot of things which goes below that also, and which
yeah,
is a lot more tougher than just creating content, having consistency, seeing analytics and those kind of things.
exactly. The biggest thing that any of the platforms algorithms look for is consistency. So
Yes.
if you cannot post every day consistently, then don't.
Start.
Just to when you can. So even if that's just once a week and you're posting something once a week on a Wednesday, for example,
Yes.
make sure that when you are posting it, it's at a time when you can react and engage with any comments, because people fall down with that. They'll post them at 10 o'clock at night and then go to sleep. And people will be posting and the algorithm will be like, well, you've not engaged back. So it'll drop your post then. Whereas, if you post at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're on your computer, then you can keep the conversation going and LinkedIn will reward you for that. So, but they're kind of important things to think about when you are posting is that consistency. And you can still be active on LinkedIn without posting every day as well. So,
Yes. I think people perceive being active by the way of just putting content themselves. But on LinkedIn, being active can also mean that you are engaging with the audience, your audience also, and other people's audience, where you are commenting maybe or sharing your information on their statuses, uh, and creating, just sharing links of different things can also be counted in content, sharing content in that way. When it comes to engaging with other audiences, and again, there are three facets of doing it. One is sales, other is doing for your personal thing, where recruitment and those kind of things are there, and one is thought leadership. How should they pursue the connections part in each of the three cases? Because there are a lot of HRs which, if you are in IT industry, if you add HRs, every time they start nagging you, start getting in your inboxes, uh, pushing, so there are people who do those things.
Mhm.
So how should somebody go about those things?
So in terms of connections, and I think you need to remember who your audience are. You know, that's the biggest thing. Why are you on LinkedIn? Who do you want to connect with? Is it to target your audience and to build a network? Is it to become known in your industry and become a thought leader? Or, you know, or is it for recruitment wise for your business? Any of those things, like, you need to just remember who that audience specifically is, and then you can use LinkedIn in order to gain more connections. Now, what people forget is that people are not just going to come to you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have to actively go out there and find those people too. And I think there's a little bit of naivety with people when they think that they can kind of just sit and wait for all these connections to come.
Yeah,
And actually, that it
it's not
it
happening.
might happen if you're lucky, but I doubt it very much. Or it's not going to be the people that you want. So, you know, spending 10 minutes a day actually going on and using that search bar to find people who are in your connection, in
Yeah.
your audience, your target. You know, I obviously work in digital marketing, so my target is business owners.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will spend time, maybe 10 minutes a day, just having a look down, seeing on the research results if there's anybody. And then what I'll do is, if I can, if the privacy settings allow me to go in and look at their profile, then I'll have a look and see, are we connected to anybody mutually? You know, do they have anything in common with me? And I'll reach out and connect with them, but always put a message in there just saying, you know, this has happened. This, you know, I can see that you're connected with so and so, or
Yes.
oh, you've done XYZ. That's awesome. You know, let's connect. Let's see each other's content. You know, and that opens up doors. The
Yeah.
other thing is using those hashtag conversations, because it's likely that the people who are using those hashtags are your audience.
True.
So engaging with that content then puts your name out there, and you can also connect with people that have also engaged on there, and you can use the fact that you both commented on that post as a reason to connect.
There are a lot of common points, in a way, when we are doing this podcast, and then in previous episodes it was discussed that when the vibes match, that is when you start creating your own tribe in a way. And
Yeah.
yeah, so uh, LinkedIn or any of the platforms that you are trying to use, be it Instagram, be it Facebook also, it is very important to match the vibes of that platform with the person that you are trying to connect with. So for LinkedIn, if you are in social media or if you are into recruitment, try to get people around those things. If you are recruitment of, suppose you were in recruitment of colleges and schools and those kind of things,
Mm.
teachers and those recruitments, it is important to be around those people who are talking about those things. So it always becomes easier to attract more people who are from that domain.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing, there's nothing kind of wrong with where you'll see. So it's quite funny because I posted something last week about um, LinkedIn advertising. Well, any social advertising being a bit like a dating analogy. Like, you know, you wouldn't ask somebody to marry you on your first date. So why do you expect LinkedIn to be able to kind of, you know,
Do
do that immediately when you're advertising? You've got to kind of start slowly and build up. And then I saw somebody post a very similar kind of scenario, that I'm connected to. And I was like, I wonder if he's seen my post. And he's like, but there's nothing wrong with that
True.
because, if anything, that's kind of like, that's a bit of a pat on the back. Like, oh, well, my content was obviously all right if other people are repurposing it. So,
True.
so I
Just
think
to let
that's,
you, uh, just to let you know, we had a discussion of same kind that
yeah,
about dating and the connections with it. We had same discussion while discussing email marketing also.
how
Uh,
fun.
we
Hot
had
topic.
we had the same analogy or kind of same analogy for podcasters also when we were discussing how we can get more podcasters and how podcasting can help people generate revenue in a way.
Yeah,
So in those both topics, we discuss how those all things are related to your dating life and
yeah,
how we can get cold audience to become a hot lead and what are the things in the same way that why you're using Tinder or why you're using Bumble or why you're
yeah,
using new meeting
exactly.
sites.
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't realize how much we use like sales funnels in our real lives.
True. While I was in my initial years of entrepreneurship, I was in accelerator, and eSpark is one of the accelerators in UK and Europe. And so somebody came from there, and then they were like, "How many people are not from sales?" And I raised my hand because I was an engineer. I was not from sales. So then they were like, "Everybody is from sales. You are doing sales each day. You are doing sales for your kids to understand them to do something. We were kids, when we did not know how to speak, we were doing sales by just crying. Okay, I want this thing. If I'm crying at this time, I want this thing. If I'm crying at this time, I want this thing, and those kind of. So sales process start from a very young age, and it is something which will never go away till you die in that way. You
Yeah, it
are
all
going to
comes down
do
to
sales.
persuasion, doesn't it? So, you know, persuasion is key. So I suppose, it's a big selling technique, but yeah, we use it daily in our lives.
True. So when it comes to persuasion, as you are saying, and when is the right time in LinkedIn to push people to buy a product, or what kind of frequency should be there? Because suppose for me also, we are building Linkjoy, which is a product for a lot of people on LinkedIn, and they can use it for multiple purposes. So for a person like me who is active on LinkedIn, I post around 8 to 9 posts a month, which I think is active, is a good number. So how should somebody like me perceive it? How frequently should I pitch my product to the users or the people in my network, and what should be the frequency according to you?
So there's a lot of different possibilities. One that I see a lot recently is the 80-20 rule, where it should, 80% is not sales and 20% can be promotional.
Yes.
But I personally am a big advocate in the kind of soft selling approach where you don't make it sound like selling. So using things like customer client testimonials, when somebody's giving you a recommendation or, they've shouted out about you, then I
Yes.
think get that on there, that's credibility. And some people would say, well, that's sales. And well, yeah, it is. But I'm also giving people value because I'm showing them that
Somebody believes in me.
yeah, I've actually performed what I said I was going to do for this person. So, I think that's fair play. I think if you've got a new product launching,
Yes.
ask for advice on it. You know, that's soft selling in a weird
Uh,
way, but it is, you're putting that product out there to your network and saying, hey guys, we've created this product. I'd love you to have a look at it for me and give me any feedback. And that's what groups are great for that sort of thing.
True.
Joining groups of your target audience and asking them to actually validate what you're
Yeah.
putting together. It's just brilliance.
We have already used that technique, and we have got great response. So we
Yeah.
discussed in SaaS groups where founders are there, and for Linkjoy only, we got great feedback for the product, and we got the early users also for the same because
Yeah.
they like the product, they started using it, and then things went from strength to strength in that way. This is a great advice. Wherever somebody is starting or somebody is just try to blend into the product which is there. So suppose for LinkedIn, try to blend in the environment, see what people are doing, follow a few of the people who are very active, and then see what your surroundings are, and then start posting one thing. And going slow in the game is, I think, better for a lot of people. Don't start posting one post a day from day one. And
Yes, yeah, it's
difficult also in a way. Uh,
yeah, it's having a strategy, and it's
yes,
using all the functionalities of LinkedIn. And yeah, as I have mentioned before, I work with clients that are shy and don't want to post on LinkedIn. They know that it's a platform where their audience are, and they know that they can utilize it, but they're not confident in putting themselves on the pedestal. And that's absolutely fine, because what they can do is what we've just discussed. They can go into groups, they can share their blogs, they can ask for feedback. They
yeah,
can, even if they don't feel like doing that, they can give someone else value and post on theirs. And that person will then connect with them, very likely that they will, because they've helped them.
yes.
And there's so much more that they can do behind the scenes of the news feed. So yeah.
And as you said correctly, sharing about your own industry can also help you a lot of times. It's
Yeah.
just so suppose from digital marketing, you are just telling whatever you have studied, what is A/B testing and those kind of things. If we start telling those things or explaining it in a language that we are comfortable with, that will also try to gain. If you are from photography background, you can talk about aperture, shutter speed, and those kind of things, which helps people in understanding. Okay, and you will always try to get people who are on the edge attracted to you in that way, who are
Yeah.
trying to learn those things. uh,
Yeah.
when it comes to the marketing of a product, how good are the company pages in that way? What is your experience with company pages, and are they still relevant? Like Facebook pages are there and they are not at all relevant now in that way, which is what I believe. The organic reach has gone down. What is about the company pages which LinkedIn has built?
I think there's definitely been a shift in company pages, and we were just having this conversation this morning actually on our team meeting about the organic kind of
Reach has
feed
gone down.
now. Yeah, so the company page, I kind of teach people to use it as a bit of a content platform. So we're very big about pushing our clients to work with employee advocacy,
True.
and using that company page as a bit of a kind of, this content is out there, use our company page and share that content. So it's kind of there as that tool. And the more people engage with that, then obviously it'll showcase out to their network, and
Yeah.
and and that kind of stops this whole problem with organic newsfeed, because actually, well, as long as people are getting the
Sharing it.
content out there, then we've done our job. I know LinkedIn has recently changed the way that the company page looks.
True.
To me, I feel like that's potentially because there's something coming, and how they're gonna work with engagement wise. And we do see LinkedIn advertising is becoming bigger. There are so many different forms of an advert now than what they were when I first started working with it. It was like sponsoring an ad and putting a boost on like Facebook was the biggest thing you could do, and now it's like, wow, you know, all
You can
these
do a
different.
lot of things with it.
Yeah, but one thing that a lot of people don't do is use showcase pages. So you can set them up so that basically your company page becomes the parent, and then you've got all these like featured pages of any additional services or target audience that you work with, and you can utilize them as well. But they do obviously still need content, so it's being mindful of that. You need to put more content on them. Um, and then there's the things like careers pages and
Yes.
stuff like that, which I've used really successfully in the past. It's not free. You have to pay for it.
Yes.
But it is, if you're recruiting and you're looking for employees and that's your purpose of your page,
Yeah.
then that's something to look at using.
And for people who are in HR and listening to this can lend you a job also if you know how to use those tools.
Yeah,
And so, because a lot of good companies are looking for people who can just optimize these things and use it well. Suppose for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I feel it is one of the most powerful tools out there. But a lot of people don't know how to use it to the full potential,
yeah,
because there are a lot of ways in which you can extract a lot of information, you can make connections, you can do sales, uh, but a lot of people don't know the intricacies and a lot of things, how the whole tool is designed. So as you said that companies who invest in people, so suppose your company also invested in you in learning the tool and doing those things, a lot of companies should push doing this, and it will always give good results in that way.
yeah. I mean, Sales Navigator is not a tool that I've used recently, but only because I've learned how to use LinkedIn without having to need
Yeah.
Sales Navigator. I've learned the tricks and trades and the secrets of how to connect with someone without being
Yes,
connected,
Naveen.
you
Yeah.
know, and and I can kind of learn that and teach that to others. I mean, there's one of the biggest things that annoys me about LinkedIn is the learning aspect, that you have to pay for the Navigator tool in order
Yeah.
to access some of the learning. And I had a free go at some, and it's good. Like some of the content that they put on there is really good. So I can kind of see why they're guarding it, but then it's like you look at Facebook, who have blueprint courses
Yes.
and Twitter's flight school, and you're like, come on, LinkedIn. But
Make it free.
yeah,
They bought Linda for the same. I think they wanted to up their game in learning, uh, and I think they're on a right path in that way.
yeah,
So
I've seen they're doing the marketing labs now, which are actually really good.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I like them.
Content creation game of LinkedIn is very strong in that way, because
Mm.
they are targeting elites, and that is where I think their content always stands out in a way. Uh,
But education is huge, isn't it? That's, that is exactly where you can add value. If you can teach your desired audience
audience.
something, then you've hit the magic.
Great. So it was great talking to you, Danny. And we are coming towards the end of the podcast where I ask last two questions to all my audiences, which are generic questions. But before that, if somebody wants to connect with you for more information, want to learn more about LinkedIn, or wants your consulting services, how should somebody connect to you?
So they can connect with me on LinkedIn, but they need to make sure that they write me a message, because I'm quite strict. If I get extra requests and there's no kind of reason, or I don't know who that person is, then I might decline them. So make sure you write a message just saying, mentioning this podcast. And the other thing is they can get me on Expand on our website.
Yes.
Um, they'll be able to find my contact details on there, and that's just expandmarketing.co.uk. And there's a couple of webinars on there that we've done about LinkedIn as well, which might help anyone that wants to go into more detail.
Great. So, anybody who wants to connect to Denny can surely connect. She has given all the information. As we come to the end, Denny, I usually ask two questions. What is your source of learning? Because, as you said, you are an excellent marketer. You have self-taught yourself a lot of things. So, what is your current source of learning? From where do you learn new things?
I absolutely love HubSpot. Their education resources are amazing. And I've recently just done one of their qualifications, their online certifications, just for social media, just to kind of check my knowledge was all right. So, and I passed, so thank God. Um, but yeah, them. And then, like we've mentioned, all of the platforms' actual tools themselves. So, they have, Flight School, Blueprint, LinkedIn's marketing labs. I love reading through all of them, but I also love listening to podcasts as well. Learn a lot from podcasts. So
Great. Which one are your favorite in podcast?
I have to give Liam Quinn a little nudge because his was the first one I ever appeared on, actually, and it's 20-minute marketing.
Okay.
And it is literally 20 minutes, so it's really good for my commute because I'm only a 20-minute drive, so it's perfect for that. And then I like Social Media Examiner. I
Yeah.
can never say his name. Mike Feltzner, I think it is. Yeah,
Those are also
that,
nice.
that one's good because, and that's social media, so it's just focused on obviously what I do. So yeah.
Great. And the last question is what keeps you motivated? As we discussed in the initial days, you have kids, and I know I have twins around. So I know it takes an army to handle twins.
Yeah, they are a handful.
So,
But
yeah.
they definitely are. They motivate me to keep going because obviously for them, but I am motivated by helping people too. And like we mentioned before we started the podcast, seeing a business kind of grow and being part of that, supporting that is ultimately the goal to me. Working with somebody on LinkedIn and then seeing the light bulb moments and then watching them go off and do really well on it. It's like, oh yes, I feel like a parent like to them as well. So that's other people's success motivates me as well.
The impact I'm still figuring out that line where I have to come up with that line. It is happiness that you get from something that you are taught or something that you're doing. That impact which has in other people's life. So how much impact are you able to create in other people's life rather than your life?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whenever you are able to do a significant amount, that is what makes you happy. I still not able to get the word in English for the same, but I'm still finding it out. That what is that word where people get happy by the impact that they are trying to create in other people's life?
It's gonna annoy me now.
Uh,
I'll remember it when we come off the recording. I'll be like, oh, that one.
yeah. So on this note, let's end it. It was a great time chatting with you, Danny, and a
Thank
lot
you.
of
You too.
learnings from LinkedIn. Thanks a lot for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.